Aloha and welcome to the next chapter. In this chapter, we're going to be talking about handling exceptions using try and except. So error checking is code that tries to detect and handle errors during execution. Python has special constructs called exception handling for exceptional circumstances. And by exceptional circumstances, we're talking about errors. So the general rule is don't be exceptional. So examples of exceptional things are, let's say you're past let's say you do an input from a user and they pass you, you're asking them to give you an integer value and you're going to do some kind of a calculation based on that. But instead of them giving you a number, they give you a word for it. Like instead of the number 6, they type in SIX. So that gives you a problem. You're going to have what we call a value error. It comes in a little bit different. And let me bring up VS Code real quick and show you what that looks like. So hold on just a second here, and I'll pull up VS Code. So if we were going to give an example of that, let's say input number equals input of give me a number, and we give them space there. And then we do something of the order of, let's say, let's do a calculation. So a calculate, or actually, no, let's just say, we're going to say, because we need to convert this to an integer. So we'll say int number equals int of input number. And we do that. And then let's do just a print of that int number afterwards. And normally this would run fine. So we give it a number and it's going to print it out just like that. But if we decide to print out the number 1 like this, what do you think is going to happen? Well, we're going to get an error here. It's going to tell us an invalid literal with base 10 because the number that we passed into here, if we look at the line, where is our line? Hold on, let's expand this out. Just say, oh, line 4. So if we look at line 4, we're sending it the wrong value there. So we get a value error. So these are the kinds of exceptions that arise as we're programming here. So we can check for these things. So Python gives us some constructs to handle error checking. We could do things like we could be crazy and put in things like checkers to say is num of this, and we can do all kinds of things. But sometimes that can get messy, and it just it makes your code, if you're putting in all this checking stuff, it really can be cumbersome, and it makes your code a little bit unreadable to put in all that stuff. So we have something called try and except. So what we do is, if we have an area where we know there's a possibility that things could go wrong, we use try. So we put try, and then we put the code there that we think would work. And then we have what we call the except. And the except is what happens when things go wrong. So in here, we're going to have, we'll put in a message, something went wrong. So when we run this, we're going to have, oops, let's go down here. It's going to say, give me a number. We put in 1, and you see that we run this, it works, it skips the except because we didn't need to run it, and then it printed out our number down here. That's what we wanted. But let's say we have 1 as our number. We hit that. Well, we still hit this error down here, but what's going to happen is it's going to come down here and it's going to say something went wrong. So we come down here, we run this, it hits an error and it goes immediately to except. If we had other code in here, like if we said print blah, and then we ran that and we put in 1, it's not going to hit blah. It's going to say something went wrong. So we went from give me a number, we got here, hit the error, it says, okay, exception just happened. So it goes down the except line and then it prints something went wrong. It skips over this blah part right there. So that's important to remember. When you hit the error, it goes immediately to the accept. It does not continue. It does not pass go. It does not collect $200. It skips this line and goes directly to the accept. It runs the accept. And then what happens after it runs the accept? It raises the error. It does not go to the, well, actually, no, it goes to the print int number, and that's where it hits the error. So so what we're seeing here, we'll run it again. When we run this, we type in 1, it goes here, it hits this, it tries to convert it, it comes up with that error, it skips over our blah, it goes down to the accept statement, it prints out the something went wrong. And then it goes down to line 9 because after it runs the accept, it goes and it continues running. And that's important to remember. After it does the exception, after it handles the exception, it continues on. But at this point, int number, it isn't defined. Why isn't it not defined? Because that was in our try part up here, and it did not get successfully set because it had an error. So this did not successfully complete. So it goes to the exception. Then when we came out of there, we hit this error because it doesn't know what int number is. So this is something to keep in mind when you're doing your exceptions too. Remember that after your exception runs, it does continue. So if you have something referenced in here that may not be set, you're going to have trouble if you try to reference it later on. You'll need to have something more meaningful in accept to take care of that situation. We could go in here and say something like int number equals and just blank if we wanted to handle something like that. So then if we did something like 1, we'd come up with something went wrong, and then it'll just print that blank right there. And then it has the enter at the end of it. So it just prints out a blank line. So that is the essence of try and accept. And it's a very powerful thing because when we use this, we don't have to test every situation under the sun. We can just test here. We can just put a try and accept. If something goes wrong, we can come out here and we can just say, hey, something went wrong. And we don't have to really get into all the details of it. This is what we call a catch-all. So this accept, it catches all problems. If you had here a value error, it would, it would flag the value error. If it was, and here we have all the error types that you'll run across. You've got end of file error, you've got key error, you've got zero division error, value error, index error. Doesn't matter. If you got accept here, it'll catch them all and it'll do this. We can specify which type we want to handle, and we're going to get into that in a later section. But for now, just know that you've got the try and accept. And the try basically is what you run. As soon as you hit an error, it's going to skip everything else. It's going to go down to your accept. It's going to run your accept. Then it's going to go and continue on executing after that. So this is known as a catch-all. It's going to catch all types of error types. So that's essentially our lesson here. I look forward to seeing you in the next lesson. If you have any questions, as always, feel free to send me an email or reach out and I can set up a Zoom meeting to better explain things to you. Until the next lesson, take care.